I'm attorney Pat Dunn. Auto accidents are a part of life. I hope you never need an attorney, but if you do, the team at the Mack Law Firm is here to help.
We continue here at Holly & Smith with Jeffrey Smith, one of the architects here. In fact, one of the founders of this great company, celebrating, can it be true, 40 years in business from downtown Hammond.
That's correct. Michael started the firm 40 years ago. I came along in 1985, about 36 years ago now, and teamed up with Michael, and it's been a great story ever since for 40 years of producing great architecture. We're proud of it.
So when you have to describe to other architects, what is the style of Holly & Smith? What do you say?
Well, I always like to answer that question by saying our architecture really doesn't have style. Our designs are manifestations of things that we've seen and liked throughout the years. So, but if you had to put a name on what our architecture is, we're all about sustainability and understanding where the sun comes from. So I would say regional modernism is a term that we like to use to describe our architecture.
I've seen you build some things. I'm thinking of a couple of pharmacies of all things that were sort of retro in their designs.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with that. Pierre and I are actually sitting in the Red, White, and Brew, having a brew, with a napkin and an ink pen, and came up with the design for Sam McGee's Chanel drugstore. And it is a little retro, and people either love it or they don't like it. So, but they know it's there.
What about the big public buildings that Holly & Smith has put their nameplate on? Does anything strike you about a pattern in those?
Not really. Again, we try to analyze the context of the site where the building's going to go. For instance, the state office buildings are around the state capitol. We used Art Deco style because that's what the state capitol was. So we're kind of sensitive to where the building's being built, the owner's needs, the context. So that defines the architecture.
Sometimes when I walk around downtown Hammond, I look at what was built during the Great Depression in the WPA days in the 1930s. I just wonder if we're leaving our kids that level of commitment to architecture.
I think we are, and I think now I'm more excited now than I think throughout the years, because the history of architecture is defined by the period the building was built in. So you have this legacy. So that's one of the great things about being an architect. We're leaving a legacy, and right now the fact that we're worrying about energy conscious building designs, I think that is the legacy we're going to leave for our future, generations. And my ultimate goal, and as architects, is to design buildings that produce energy rather than consume energy. Wouldn't that be great?
So you really see then the movement to preventing climate change affecting your work?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, we've done such a good job over the years as architects. We're just listening to a lecture from the person who founded the 2030 challenge, which is to build buildings that will be net zero by the year 2030. And he's saying we don't need to build any more power plants. We've been so good with our designs of our buildings to save energy that the need for plants is going away.
So obviously that means solar panels on the roof, right?
Not necessarily, but that's green energy for sure, but that's evolving too. Soon you can skin a building where the entire building can be photovoltaic and produce energy. So that technology is coming slowly but surely.
And you see it in Hammond, Louisiana.
Yeah, Michael's got a pond house he just did. It's net zero out of town. He's got solar panels on the roof and uses very little energy. Yeah.
So I guess you do have things to be excited about looking into the future.
Absolutely. We love the future. In fact, we live in the future. That's the great thing about being an architect. We're planning ahead for people's futures, yeah.
How about in the post-COVID era, do you see more of an inclination toward ventilation? We've all learned that's so critical when it comes to preventing a coronavirus, and most teachers, they tell me they're at schools where you couldn't open the windows if you wanted to. You can't even open a window. Correct.
In my career over the past 40 years, I've seen technology change in air conditioning and heating systems throughout the world. And COVID, of course, has made another change. Back before COVID, we had the lack of fresh air in buildings, which caused sickness. You've heard of sicknesses from buildings not being ventilated well. We added requirement for fresh air into the building to overcome that, which ended up taking a lot of energy, bringing fresh air in and conditioning it. Well, now they've got a new ionization system that they're adding into air conditioners that'll kill the COVID virus. So that requires less fresh air into the building because of this new ionization system. So yeah, the technology is being changed for the good by COVID. Yeah.
If I came across a YouTube video from Silicon Valley and some guys in California were having these conversations, I wouldn't find it surprising. But the fact that we're having this kind of high technology in Hammond, look, I mean, it's great.
Well, I'm very, very proud to have found Hammond. I mean, I can thank Michael for that, because I was looking for a job as a baby rabbit architect back, I was 30 years old, and Michael needed help. And St. Thomas Aquinas was the first project Michael and I worked on together. And that kind of started, the Holly and Smith, movement. Very, very proud of that. I grew up in New Orleans, so I'm a city boy, but when I found Hammond, I said, oh my God, what a great place. Tangipahoa Parish, I think, is the best kept secret in Louisiana. Really do.
So how about this as a place to do business from?
It's ideal. It's like I was saying, the geography, of course, is one thing. You're centrally located. You can get to New Orleans and Baton Rouge, and our firm is the size that it is, so we've been able to do significant work. And a lot of it's not been in Tangipahoa Parish, but this is our headquarters. But we can easily get to Baton Rouge, New Orleans, along the I-12 corridor. It's a really great place to be located. And
people in other businesses, I'm sure it applies to you guys as well, they've told me that it's so easy to do business here compared to other places, even in Louisiana, in terms of permits, in terms of a laissez-faire attitude of local government, or even if you need something, that the government will help you.
Correct. But that could be a two-edged sword. As people start to discover Hammond, I think Hammond Ginger can maybe speak to this, but I believe Hammond has been the fastest growing community in the state here recently. So with that, you have to plan properly. So I've been pushing, I'm on the planning commission now for the city of Hammond. I've been pushing them to adhere to the master plan, which is all about how you grow and where you place your new facilities. And I think the Medline was a perfect example of the controversy about where do you put a new facility and how does it affect the community. So planning for our growth is absolutely critical.
Well, since you brought that up, when I go out Old Covington Highway, I'm astounded that well over 100 new homes have already been permitted in that area on top of Forbes Farm and all the other developments already there. So just the city of Hammond, before you go out a little more, over 300 new homes coming on River Road in another subdivision, and the developers will tell you it's largely because of Medline that's only a mile away.
Didn't know that, but I do know there's a lot of growth happening residential-wise, and it's really impacting our infrastructure. So we got to get a grip on where we're allowing development to occur and how the infrastructure needs to be improved to keep up with that. That's an age-old problem. Ken, you're from New Orleans as well as I am. I grew up off of Metairie Road as a kid, and there was no Veterans Highway, there's no Causeway, there's no I-10. So things will grow. So we have to plan for that. And Hammond, I believe, I've heard this said, will be the epicenter of a North Shore metropolis eventually. It is right centrally located. It's going to happen.
Injuries can occur anytime, any place, and it may not be your fault. I'm attorney Sherman Mack, and it's my duty to make sure you get the legal representation that you deserve. At the Mack Law Firm, we represent you and your family, and we'll make sure your legal needs are met. Contact us at TangiLawTeam.com. Our team is ready to help.